3 years ago, I started a podcast interviewing filmmakers and photographers that inspire me, and my first episode was with Riley and Eleyna from Sailing La Vagabonde. In the last 4 years, they've grown their YouTube channel to over 1.2 million followers and have done that while sailing around the world and living on their boat. This podcast is just audio. If you want to listen on iTunes or Spotify, the links are below. If not, you can continue to listen right here. If you like the podcast, don't forget to subscribe and check out the other episodes, and thanks for listening. Riley and Eleyna, thanks so much for joining me today on the show. I've been following you guys actually since 2 years ago. My brother and I were looking at doing a sailing trip from the west coast of Canada, so from Vancouver down to Panama, and we went on to YouTube to see what other people have been doing, what kind of sailing adventures people have been up to. And we found you guys, and you've crafted such a unique and fascinating life. I've been following you ever since. So thanks for coming on the show.
No worries. Thanks for following.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to watch a few of our videos, mate.
I've seen them all. Yeah, so for people that might not know who you guys are, could you give a brief background on what Sailing La Vagabonde is all about?
Okay, yeah, so basically Riley bought a yacht maybe 4 years ago, having no clue how to sail, and he bought that in the Mediterranean, and he sailed to the Greek islands where he met me, and he kidnapped me, and we've been together ever since. Since then, we've sailed through the Med, across the Atlantic, the Caribbean, through the Panama Canal, across the Pacific Ocean to New Zealand, and along the way started making some videos, mainly for friends and family back home. And they got a lot of interest and a lot of hits, which we totally weren't expecting. And one thing led to another, and we're here in France now. Just picked up our new boat, so it's been an absolute roller coaster.
Yeah, we've gone from ranked amateurs to professional filmmakers.
I wouldn't call it professional.
No, it is professional because you're getting paid to do it, right? It's your
That's
livelihood.
Right,
yeah. If we can kind of roll back the clock, I'll start with you, Eleyna. What was your life like pre La Vagabonde? If we were to roll it back, maybe like 3 or 4 years, what were you up to?
Or pre Riley, more importantly.
Pre-Riley.
I finished school and I certified as a dive master. So I was working in Cairns on the Great Barrier Reef and also the Greek Islands. And in between that, I would play music wherever I could. It gets me a little bit of cash and kept the, travel funds up. And basically I moved around a lot. I didn't really have a home and I wanted to see and do as much as I could while I was young.
Great. And when you say you finished school, is that high school that you finished?
Yeah, just high school. Yeah,
okay.
I looked into going to university, but I didn't really know what I wanted to study, so I thought I'd have a gap year, and it ended up being 4.
Here you are. And Riley, what about you? What were you doing at that time?
I had been working in the offshore industry, oil and gas, working on oil rigs and also in the mines in Western Australia for 8 years to save up the money for the boat, La Vagabonde, and also for the whole trip because I knew it would be quite expensive. So the idea to get the boat came quite late in the piece. I don't really know how it all came about. I know I saw my friend's parents bought one, and then I don't know, it just seemed like a really cool way to travel.
You were sick of living out of a backpack, that's what he tells other people.
Yeah.
So he thought he'd take his house with him, and a boat was an easy solution. Well,
Right.
it didn't, it's not that easy.
No, it's quite hard. So I spent 6 months in Thailand having a look around because I really had no idea. So I spent some time in Thailand and I pulled a boat out of the water, and there's a guy called a surveyor, and he came along and he's like, it was a 60 foot, which is really, really long and big and imposing, difficult to sail. And he's like, oh, so you must have grown up with sailing, you're an experienced racer and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, nah. And he goes, put it back in the water. Put it back in the water. Come with me. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, what? It looks pretty good to me. And then, so he goes, oh, you should be looking more at these sort of boats. And that's when I started hunting around online. And then, I found La Vagabonde, and when I flew over to Europe, that was the first one that I saw, and I loved it, and I bought it.
So you bought the boat, and then, Eleyna, you were working as a musician on an island somewhere in Greece. Is that correct?
Eos.
Oh, in Eos. So, yeah,
In
I know
Greece.
the party island, yeah?
Yeah, it's a party on.
And so Riley rolls up, and he's got the mustache, and you look across,
Yeah,
and
saw the master before I saw him.
yeah,
Everyone always says that.
I did. It's the
from
truth.
across the bar, you just see it. And how quickly did you guys decide to head out on this adventure together? How long did you know each other for?
Well, so we met, and he told me that he had a boat, and I didn't believe him because he looked so young and immature, and he was drinking at the time. So I was like, yeah, cool, like you've got a boat. Anyway, he did have a boat, and he took me for a few short sails around the island, and he had one last shift of work, so he was still working offshore at this time. So he actually had to leave the Greek Islands and me and fly back home to work for another 3 weeks, and he decided to quit his job for good, not because of me, but because he just decided.
I was already going to quit.
Yeah, so he just conveniently enough for me. So he quit his job and he came back for good, and we probably hung out for maybe 2 weeks, and he'd, take me sailing and he'd watch me play music, and then he asked me to leave with him. And it took me a while.
We were only going to a nearby island, so it wasn't like, let's go around the world together. It was like, let's go check out the next island, let's go check out another one, and she never left.
So it wasn't let's go sail 30,000 nautical miles together. It was let's go one little island hop and see how it goes, right?
Yeah,
and it went that way until it started getting cold, and that was around October or November, and then I suggested, why don't we go to the Caribbean? And
well, it was more along the lines, Ryan, of either we go to the Caribbean or I'm out of here. Yeah, I'm going back to sunny Australia.
Where were you that it was getting cold at the time?
We were still in the Greek Islands, somewhere around Crete. And the weather was just gnarly. It started getting really windy and it was just freezing. We had like 6 or 7 blankets on outside, so it wasn't too pleasant.
And when was it that you decided to pick up the camera and start documenting your experiences for your family?
Well, that was really early on, actually.
Almost straight away, Eleyna picked up the camera.
Yeah, Riley had this great camera. It was a Canon Power Shot. It's a dinosaur now.
Oh, yeah.
But at the time, it was pretty great. And he never used it. And I picked it up and I made it my baby and just started taking random videos because I didn't tell Mum when I agreed to go sailing with Riley. So I thought, if I present her this video as well as the news of I've just met a boy who doesn't know how to sail and we're going to sail around, she might, she'd get a better idea of what was going on. And so it was for her mainly, but I left it open for anyone else to watch, really. Yeah,
and that first video, is that the one that's now at over 1.6 million views? Is that the one?
Something like that.
And that was actually your first one.
That was the first one, yeah. It's pretty funny looking back at those videos.
It's insane. And when did you realize that was more than your mom and your family watching the video?
Riley sort of doubted it in the beginning, didn't ya? We didn't really know. We didn't know the world of YouTube. We didn't know what was good and what wasn't.
We had no idea.
But I saw numbers and I was like, wow, this is great. The video hit 10,000 views. And I was like, is this good, Riley? He's like, no, I don't know. Like,
not good enough.
We didn't see what was happening, and before we knew it, the video had so many hits.
Yeah, it had a lot of views, but then I thought, this is all well and good. Where's the money from advertising? And at the end of the month, it was like $15, and I was like, well, we're not going to make a career out of this. Let's look at chartering or something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't enough to put a lot of time and effort into at the time, was it?
So it certainly began as a hobby.
So Eleyna, it was mostly you that kept pushing the video side of things. Riley, you didn't quite see the upside in the beginning?
No, not really. It was a great, fun little side project, but it was certainly Eleyna's baby. I would be reading my book or cleaning the boat or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he wasn't really into it.
Yeah, one thing that really shines through your videos that you guys are so natural on camera from the very first video. That's definitely what attracted me to keep following, and you're just such positive and charismatic people. Where do you think that positivity comes from? I mean, in the episode where you get your fishing rod stolen, you have a pretty good outlook on that. In the episode, Eleyna, where you get burned,
I think when you're on a boat, you sort of have to be positive, because if one of you's down, it really it's a big effect on the other person. So in a bad situation, usually the best thing to do is to look at the positive side so that we can get through it. If you're both negative, all you have is each other, and it's not going to get you through. That's how I sort of see it. Do you?
Eleyna was like the character out of if there's a book by Voltaire called Candide, and she was just so insanely positive. It was ridiculous. But she's a little bit more realistic now. But yeah, I think it is important to stay positive on the boat for sure.
So maybe was it a bit of Eleyna being on the extreme of too positive, Riley, you're a bit below, and you guys came to meet in the middle where you're still...
I would say that's exactly what happened.
No, I'd argue against that, Ron.
Okay.
I think that I was okay and Eleyna was just crazy.
I was a fairy.
You brought Eleyna down to a normal level. That's what we're going with?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, maybe. I'm not sure exactly where we're at now. It seems to be pretty good.
You guys definitely have it going. It's... you scroll through the comment section on your videos and you make so many people's day. Just, I don't know, you guys throw off such a good, authentic vibe in your videos. And I've also noticed the production value is going up a ton. I mean, you guys have the drone going now. It's pretty exciting. I still have to say my favorite video is Bilgy.
Bilgy!
Riley, if you want to tell people a bit about the Bilgy film, it's a pretty good one.
It's a bit of a noir art
house.
Yeah, it's pretty deep. There's a lot of hidden meanings in there, a lot of subtle undertones, which a lot of people probably wouldn't pick up on. Ryan, you might have picked up on a few. So congratulations.
Not all of them.
Yeah, no. It's
You
something.
gotta watch it a million times.
It's layered. It's very layered. So. Yeah, no, it's a story about a man who falls in love with a bilge pump on a boat. How does it?
And it basically relates to it's telling a story of how you and I met. So it used to be Riley used to talk to the bilge pump before I came along. Like he was usually by himself, so he'd make friends with anything that made noises on the boat. And then I came along, and all of a sudden there's me, so he forgets about the bilge pump. Basically, I think, yeah.
So it's actually an accurate representation of what kind of happened.
Yeah.
Except in black and white with no sound.
Yeah. To tell you the truth, we were really so bored. We were so bored in Nevis, I think we were. And we were just like, let's make a movie. It was Riley's idea.
Yeah, that's one thing I want to dive into is what does the average day on the boat kind of look like for you guys? There's definitely a lot of downtime.
Less downtime than you'd think.
Yeah.
Okay, lots of upkeep.
A lot less these days.
It's going to be a completely different story on this boat because it's brand new, but on the old boat, like forever fixing, trying to source not materials. What am I thinking of? Parts. Trying to source parts, getting them flown out to random locations, and then just on a boat, everything's 3 or 4 times more difficult. So instead of having a cup of tea taking you 30 seconds, it might take 5 minutes, which
I don't know what kettle
during
you
a
got,
day,
but it doesn't take 30 seconds.
During a day, it adds up. Oh no, but like I've got to get around you, and then you've got to pull stuff out to get to the actual tea bags, and then put it all back. I don't know. It's just there's a lot less downtime than people think.
So an average day for us, I suppose, it depends if we're out at sea for a week, if we're on passage, usually a day, there's not much, there's no editing going on, which I love. So it's all filming because I can't edit on a mono hull. It's very uncomfortable. I will get seasick. So, yeah, no editing.
There's not a lot of anything going on passage apart from doing a little bit of filming and
sailing, filming, eating,
just trying
sleeping.
To stay alive.
Yeah.
Staying alive. Fishing, we'll do a bit of fishing.
Yeah. If it's really calm, we'll relax and maybe have a bit of a drink in the afternoon and a nice dinner, and then
it's great. Everything is so awesome when you're out there, and then because of the business, as soon as we get to land now, we've got a lot of stuff to do. So now I have to catch up on all of that editing. I've got to upload videos. We've got a large list of things going on at the moment, so it's a bit of a love-hate relationship with land life, but it's pretty convenient. We do miss it when we've been away.
It's almost impossible to give you an average day because they're so varied. And look, really good as as well as really bad as well on a boat. That's what we find, is that there's never a sort of a consistent. It's either the best day and just so beautiful, like from morning to night, just perfect weather and everything goes right, or everything just goes wrong all of a sudden and there's a huge storm and something breaks, and
it's a roller coaster.
That's
exactly. Very, very up.
That's what makes it so attractive as well, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's exciting. And another random question: how do you guys stay so fit while you're confined?
Oh my gosh, we're not fit at the moment. We've been eating pasta and bread since we've been in France.
Yeah, you're in croissant country now, so it's fine. You can take a few weeks off.
Exactly.
Very dangerous. Well, Riley's got his exercise equipment on the boat, and
I've got like a stretchy thing and some push-up handles.
Yeah.
That's all. Oh no, I've got the weights.
We do what we can, but we try and eat as healthy as we can. I think since we've been sailing, we've just noticed you really just can't eat whatever you want because we can't always exercise. So I started getting into healthy eating and learning a few new things in the kitchen, and it's been a lot of fun and we love it. We're never going back to eating garbage. It's just no good for you.
Yeah. You guys were just in New Zealand. I was actually there a couple months before you guys, living on Great Barrier Island for a couple weeks. I know you guys visited.
Oh, we went there.
Yeah. I was out there. A good friend. I spent 3 years in Auckland. I went to high school there. And a good friend of mine has a little beach house on the island. So we went and we got to kind of live off the sea for a few weeks and just reconnecting with your food. I mean, catching a fish and then learning how to prep it all is such a cool experience. You guys must find it weird when you go back to a city. And
totally, yeah.
We do like going back to a city. It's really good. But particularly, and this is how I explain it, when we went through the Pacific in particular, like the Marquesas and then through to the Cook Islands.
The Tuamotus.
And the Tuamotus in between. They're just tiny little rings of reef, and it's, there's a shop there, but you just can't get.
The ship comes every 3 weeks, and there was no internet,
and
it was the best place ever. Except we couldn't stay there forever.
You can't get a tomato. You can't get one. So you've got to get like canned vegetables and all this sort of stuff. So
anyway,
it can get a bit annoying. So when we got to New Zealand, we felt less connected with our food because it was like we just go to supermarket and buy all that sort of stuff.
Whatever we wanted.
We really felt like we were in amongst it.
I want to talk a little bit about the catamaran deal that you guys landed, because that's obviously a huge deal. How did that come about?
Would you like to go or me?
I can take this one.
Whatever. Either.
We were in Los Roques, which is Eleyna's favourite place ever.
Yeah. It's an archipelago of islands in Venezuela.
Yep. So we had dropped anchor and this catamaran came along in front of us and dropped anchor in front of us. And I saw it come in and I was like, my God, that is just beautiful.
Yeah.
And I sort of stood up and I walked up to the front of the boat. Then Eleyna and I were going to head into town. We'd just grab some dinner or something like that. So we jumped in the tender and I went past and I was going really slow, like looking at it, and I saw some people on the back deck and they looked over and I waved at them. I was like, hey guys, and they said, come over on the boat. It must happen to them all the time.
Oh yeah.
And we ended up on board and I asked a million questions, and then we ended up spending Christmas with them. And it turned out that not only was it, so I think it is so beautiful because it is streamlined and it goes really fast. So I was like, okay, it's beautiful and it goes fast. Well, can we have the email address of the CEO?
Yeah.
We'll tell them that we've got this little YouTube channel and see if we can get one.
And Riley joked about it in the beginning. He's like, I'm going to message him and, hopefully like they can, get us a deal. I'm like, Riley, we can't afford this. Like, it's so expensive.
Yeah.
But he sent an email and the reply was probably best case scenario. It said, hello, I'm a huge fan of the show already. We love what you do. We would love to,
somehow organise to get you guys on board one, like we'll work with you sort of thing.
Yeah.
And this email we received just before we crossed the Pacific, which meant
that was much later. This was in Los Roques.
Yeah.
So we got an email then, and then the really good one was like 4 months.
Before the Pacific
months
crossing.
later. Yeah.
That's
anyway.
huge. That's so exciting for you guys. And now you're in Paris and you've taken it out a handful of times, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Eleyna's drives, so I've got to throw the ropes and stuff, and Eleyna drives it. So
Yeah,
it's
a beast. But yeah, basically the team at Outremer really have just been so nice to us, and they haven't given us a free boat, no, but they've been able to reduce the price a lot, and because of the channel, we were able to get discounted navigation gear, which is a huge cost, and sails, and the list goes on. So it's at a price that we can afford with our income that we're earning from the internet. So we are over the moon, and we'll be able to work out at sea now, which is one of the main reasons we wanted a catamaran, so we can actually do things while at sea, and it's more of a house rather than like arriving at your destination and then working.
It doesn't feel like we're camping anymore. It feels like we're on a home.
Yeah, maybe tea will take 30 seconds again instead of 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Very important to minimise the amount of time you spend making tea.
Yes.
Yeah, seriously. And the fact that the CEO was a fan of your channel just shows how big a reach you guys have. Has it been kind of strange? Have you been recognized walking around places, or when you show up to an island, do people know who you are?
Because when we arrive to a new place, it's usually by boat, and all of the sailors have already seen our channel. So yeah, most sailors know who we are. And as for land, we always get recognized in airports, I guess because, a lot of travelers are in airports, duh. And I guess they sort of look up travel vlogs or whatever. But New Zealand was really a shock. We could not go anywhere without getting recognised, and that's because it's such a massive sailing community. So, we do get recognised a lot now. It's strange. We're still getting used to it.
We tend to attract a pretty cool audience. So generally speaking, we have a good conversation, and we get it all sorted out, and we get a photo, and it's good. We get to meet nice people, so that's been good.
Yeah, you guys have a pretty amazing audience. You can see as you go through the comment section, YouTube is just pretty much a cluster of negative comments for the most part. But
I know, isn't it?
We're so lucky.
You're so lucky.
We feel very lucky, yeah.
But on occasion, I'm sure you guys get the comment, "Oh, I would love to do that, but I've just got too many responsibilities," and comments like that. So how do you, not that you would respond to them, but if you were to respond to someone who said that, what would you say?
Well, I think you sort of make your own luck. I really do.
Yeah.
So I think nothing's going to happen for you unless you go out and search for it and try. Nothing just gets handed to you. And as for the people kind of saying I have too many responsibilities, everyone's situation is so different, and some people just might not ever be able to do what we're doing. But I think just make the most of who you are and what you are able to do. And I don't know. What do you think, Riley?
I think it's brilliant that sometimes we can inspire people. That's really cool. And we do get that a lot. But as for people saying I do think that we're very lucky. We remind each other all the time how lucky we are, and not to take it for granted and all that sort of stuff. So I wouldn't get angry if someone said that I was lucky. I agree.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, you do make your own luck, and that's what I think is important to reinforce. Some people have different situations, and then always every day reflecting, being grateful for what you do have, which you can definitely see that you guys do that on a regular basis. It's pretty cool. So what else do you guys have coming up? What are the big plans with the new catamaran? Are there any new locations you want to check out?
We got to learn to sail the thing first. No, so we're going to sail the Mediterranean this year once again, and go back to all the places we loved and all the places we missed out on. So that'll be all of this year, and then we're going to cross the Atlantic again, and ... We're not too sure. The world is actually our oyster, so we change our minds all the time. One day it'll be sailing up the east coast of America in 2018, and then it will be going through the Panama Canal and sailing the west coast, up to Canada. So who knows?
We were actually even thinking of having a vote on our YouTube, where should we go? North Pole or east coast of the US and just see what people say.
Try and get the
see if they
viewers.
try and kill us by heading into these like crazy.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You got to be careful.
Totally. Yeah, we're not going there too cold.
But somewhere like Iceland or something like that could be a great time, right?
We feel the cold a lot. I was in New Zealand just complaining so much, and everyone there was like wearing t-shirt and shorts, and we've just been totally acclimatized to the tropics.
Yeah, we like the equator. It's great.
It's a good spot.
But you know, this boat it's pretty awesome. It's pretty fast. We can zip around. Yeah.
So you
quite
don't spawn up to Iceland.
No,
that's still a long way.
So you won't be visiting me in Canada anytime soon, I guess.
Oh, I don't know, mate.
We'll
maybe,
see.
I don't know. Maybe you come down to see us.
I'll come see you guys. I'd do another little stint on the Great Barrier or something like that. It's been a good time.
That's good.
Oh, it's going to be a while till we're there, but yeah.
Yeah, and so neither of you went to post-secondary schooling, is that correct? You're done in high school and that was it?
Yeah. Public school.
And did you feel pressure from your parents and, I mean, friends that were going that route to do it? Or was it a no-brainer that you're just going to follow your passion for travel?
Well, no. I most of my friends and family have gone to university, we call it in Australia, college, where you guys are, I guess. But, I felt a little bit of pressure. It would have been something that I would have loved to have done. But in Australia, where like at the time, it was sort of crazy not to try and go and get work in the mines or offshore because there was so much money to be made. And so in the 4 years that you're at university, you could have made, X amount of money and then and bought a house or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it just made perfect sense.
And for me, I
didn't need a uni degree to figure that out.
No. I felt no pressure from my parents. My parents are grey nomads and, they were like, cool, Eleyna, do whatever you want. But from my friends, I definitely felt a bit of pressure because most of my friends moved to the city, we call it, which is just Perth, and, started uni and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I thought travel was a good solution and that's what I did.
So Riley, when you were working at the mines, was it hard to get away from that lifestyle where you were making a lot of money? Because I'm sure a lot of people got sucked in. They started buying nice cars and maybe buying homes and stuff like that. How did you manage to stray away from that?
Do you know some guys that work offshore out of Canada?
Yeah, so in Calgary, which is just to the east of where I am now, there's a lot of oiling going on. And
I can tell.
Yeah, so you get a lot of guys that go out there and sure, you're making 120 grand a year, but you're not really, because by the time you pay off your truck and your nice house and your expensive ski trips where you spend 8 times the amount that you need to, you're really not coming out ahead.
Couldn't agree more, mate. So there was myself and a few other young guys that like to travel, and I'd be sitting there at a lunch break or smoke over is what we call it, and they're just talking about like these $1 million houses and diamond rings and stuff, and I'm bashing my head against the wall, just going like the same guys that are not bragging but talking about that stuff are the same ones that are complaining about their job, and I'm like, sell the house, tell your probably really nice, beautiful wife that you can't afford that diamond ring, and downsize and take a year off. You could easily do it. But yeah, you definitely get used to the money and, keeping up with the next door neighbours and your friends and stuff like that, which it's definitely a trap. I had always planned to get out. Most people do, but it's hard to do. I don't know.
Did you feel the pressure to stay?
To stay, yeah, like everyone does. It's really good money.
Yeah.
Good job. I'm glad you made it out the other side.
Merci.
Is that a value that your parents kind of gave to you? Is that how you were brought up, or something internal? Just your value for maybe not buying things so much as experiences?
I think both. Probably more internal and just seeing the way people's lives were rolling out before learning from the older dudes. You see guys that are there that are 60 and they're jaded, old, hating life. But you see guys that have a fantastic time there as well. But if you're not, then it's probably time to start thinking about some of the decisions you've been making.
Yeah, fair enough. And then Eleyna, you said your parents were kind of free spirits. What did they think when you said you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that? What was that last bit?
What did they think? I guess you said you didn't want to tell your mom initially, and you made that video. What did she say when you sent her that first video?
Yeah, okay. So I actually, when Riley asked me to leave for good with him, I had a return ticket booked to Australia. And at the time, I had a van that I travelled Australia in. So I had that to sell. And that was a big decision for me because that was like my baby.
Gary,
his name was, my van. Anyway, I sold my van and I surprised my parents who were travelling Australia at the same time, actually. And basically, they were camping at a national park and I had my backpack on and I had to pay $100 for a taxi from the airport just so it was a real surprise. Anyway, I surprised the hell out of them and yeah, they were so happy to see me because they hadn't seen me in a year, and I told her then and I showed her the video and she was really, Mum was just over the moon. She was obviously worried because every person who doesn't know about sailing and the ocean kind of thinks that it's some kind of perfect storm scenario, and Mum's like, oh, the waves are big out there. I'm like, yes, Mum, but you check the weather and you don't go out when there's storms. And yeah, she got used to the idea, but it took a little while. I'm just constantly trying to keep her as up to date as possible, and yeah,
it must be happy. Pretty easy for her to stay up to date now. Just subscribe to your YouTube. You guys you're uploading a ton of videos now. Do you have a goal that you want to release a certain amount of videos every week, or how does that work?
We promised one every Monday.
Yeah, and if there's anything extra, we'll put that up on a Friday. But every Monday, that's our schedule. So we think that's probably the best option for us, being out at sea a lot of the time. So yeah, we don't want to put too much pressure on ourselves uploading more than what we have to. And people seem to love the once a week, 15-minute video. They love that, and our channel's doing really well because of it. So I don't think we'll change anything for now, but we'll see.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier, so you obviously have a passion for editing videos, but it can also become a bit of a chore, which I know as a filmmaker. How long does it take you? How long is the editing process for each 15-minute video?
Oh, well, I'm transitioning over to Premiere Pro, so I've been working on iMovie for 3 years now, and there's so many things I wish I could do with the program, but it just doesn't have the feature. So it's come the time in my life when I need to step up my game and use Premiere Pro, but that's going to take me a while. But at the moment, a video on iMovie, I can do it pretty much with my eyes closed, and it takes me
so fast.
It takes me maybe a day.
Yeah.
A day to make a video. Yeah. Just depends. I need to be inspired. So if I'm not in the right mood, I'll leave it and come back.
I'll look over, Ryan, and there's just hands flying everywhere in front of the computer and hair going all over the place. And I'll sort of interrupt, and she ignores me, and then I'll bring a little coffee over to her, and
takes him 30 seconds to make a coffee.
Yeah.
No, I know that life well as an editor as well. But I think the switch to Premiere Pro is definitely a good call. I've been on that for a few years now, and it's so intuitive. It's just cut, chop, super fast.
Totally, yeah.
And then for the people that might be interested, what gear do you guys use for shooting?
So we've got we've got a G7X, a G7X Mark II, a Canon 6D with a Rode mic, which I wouldn't recommend. I would go an 80D instead. We've got 2 GoPros, which we got recently. Which
GoPro 5s.
GoPro, yeah, Hero 5s.
And we did have what was that handy cam?
Oh, the Canon.
To be honest, we use the Canon G7X all the time. It's just fabulous. It's light. The footage is just amazing. The sound is a problem, but if you stick a little furry thing on the top.
There's wind where we are, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
It's no good if there's any darkness around the place. But what else have we got?
That's about it, yeah.
That's our main gear. We're looking at getting something pretty heavy duty, something like some shoulder mounted.
because we're on the boat and it's moving, and we really cannot have something that we need to manually focus. We need an autofocus in camera, but also something that has like awesome sound, which is hard to find. So yeah, we're looking into that at the moment.
Yeah, it's such a cool time in filmmaking right now where it's kind of democratized, where you can buy a $300 camera and produce really high quality stuff. I was actually I was reading an article, and part of your deal with the catamaran, it's kind of a marketing move on their part, right? They're looking to get more young people into sailing, which is cool. And the numbers that you guys are putting up on your YouTube videos are actually contending with the World Cup of Sailing, right?
Oh, it's fantastic. They're very happy with the response that they've received already. And for us, it's like a no-brainer. Like, people spend a lot, like some of these companies spend a lot of money on advertising in magazines and stuff like that. And they just don't get the same sort of reach out of it as what they would get with an influencer even a tenth the size of us.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure you've had a reasonable amount of companies coming to you and wanting to do some product placement in your videos. So how do you decide? I mean, that's what I said at the start, where you guys are authentic. Picky. Yeah, and that's the key, because you guys are so real. If at all the product felt out of place, it might kind of ruin the magic of the show.
Absolutely, and we're very lucky in that Patreon, our crowdfunding site, is what gets us by. Like, that has just been a lifesaver. So we've been able to say no to these massive, companies that want us to sell terrible products.
Stuff. Don't cane anyone.
No, I won't.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, to all of our patrons.
It's just such a brilliant concept. Yeah,
it really is.
We have been able to avoid a lot of that stuff where our hands would have been tied behind our back. We would have had to have done more of that stuff. So yeah, we've been pretty picky. So we can be picky, yeah, and we will cooperate with someone if we feel confident and we like the product. We don't want to do anything that doesn't really suit us.
Yeah, and that's totally fair enough. I mean, it's amazing what you guys have done. You made a living doing exactly what you love, and that might be a good place to end it on the patron note. So you guys, basically, you have a Patreon account. Do you want to go into detail on how people can support your journey?
Totally. So in the beginning, when we were, our first few episodes, I'm sure you can sum up what our lives were like at the time. People were saying to us, how do we donate? We want to keep the dream alive. And at the time, Riley didn't really feel comfortable taking money from strangers. It was a very new thing, like, what is crowdfunding? And at the time I was like, it doesn't really feel right. But then we got more and more comments of people saying, let me give you some money. And then they told us to set up a Patreon account. That's a crowdfunding site. So I set it up, and sort of, it was one of those websites where you just type in your details and sort of leave it. And then, I logged in maybe a few weeks later, and we had, I think maybe $100 or $200 a video. And it was like, it was just like a confidence boost. Like, it obviously wasn't enough to get by, and sailing is very expensive, especially when you're just beginning. So it took a while to get to a point where we could live off that, basically. We have over 1,000 patrons now, and they're supporting our production anywhere from $2 a video to $200 a video. So it's just such a great idea.
That's wicked.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so I'll link that in the show notes below when I post this. But thanks so much for your time, guys. I'm really stoked to connect, and I have been following you for a couple of years now, and just watching the production quality go up and up, and you guys gain even more fame, but stay insanely humble and real, which is always refreshing. So yeah, keep it up. I'm stoked to see what you guys have coming.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks so
mate.
much.
Thanks for taking the time to interview us. We appreciate it. And good questions too.
Yeah, we'll have to interview you another time.
You make me think. It's good.
We'll make it happen. Anyways, all right, guys, thanks for listening. And you can check out the show notes. I'll link the Patreon and the YouTube, and of course the Bilgy. film, which is a must-watch. I think it might be at Sundance this year if we're lucky. So yeah, right on.
Well,
Thanks.
we're right around the corner from the Cannes Film Festival, so
Yeah, or maybe a sequel, The Return of Bilgy, could be in the works, something like that. On the
We've
catamaran.
had some pictures from Warner Brothers, so yeah,
Nah,
we're supposed to keep that.
It's too corporate. All right, guys. Thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
no worries.
mate. See ya.
See you later.
Thank you for listening to the show. You can find the show notes at ryanjharris.ca/podcast. So that's Ryan, J as in the letter J, and then Harris, HARRIS.ca for Canada /podcast. And you'll see all the links that we mentioned in the show. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or via email on the website. Thanks for listening. See you later.